Hello.
Hello.
How you doing?
I'm fine.
Well, I hear we have Robert Bowie here. Hi,
David,
Erik. First, I want to say hi, Erik, and I love you very, 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 very much.
he went, mwah.
Aw.
Yeah,
So,
David Bowie's here.
okay. So, hello, Mr. Bowie. How are you?
He said, hello, I'm well, thank you.
You just transitioned, so I had a lot of requests from blog members
He
wanting
said,
to me to interview you.
when you said he had transitioned, he said, so I've heard.
So you've heard, huh? We got a smart aleck on our hands, eh?
He just laughed.
Okay, but anyway, you obviously from just reading comments on the blog and my Facebook page, you really made a big impact on a lot of people, musically and otherwise.
He said, and that is simply like the icing on the cake. He's kind of projecting that energy, right?
Okay,
But he says that wasn't my intent. It was really simply I'm a creative soul, and so I had to express myself
yeah,
in a way that honored who I am. And I was going to say he's the way he showed up. uh, uh, well, the only thing I can really make out of him, because I guess this is kind of in line with how his personality is,
hmm
but I can just see his head and his face a little bit like down to here. So I really can't tell what he's wearing. Well, I get the impression that he's wearing like a suit or something.
okay,
But anyway, like tweed. What is
okay,
tweed? That's what I just heard, tweed.
hmm
And his hair is not like, I always thought he had, I mean, I know a little bit of him because who doesn't?
hmm
But his hair is darker than I
okay,
remember seeing it. It was like, but not quite like black. I mean, it's more like a brown color.
okay. I know I've seen him with highlight, with blonde hair, but it's
Yeah,
obviously
that's
bleached.
what I was thinking. But
Yeah. Well, let me ask you some questions, if I can. First, what was your spiritual mission this lifetime as David Bowie?
to be true to yourself, he said.
Okay, so to teach others or for you to be true to yourself?
Uh, to be true to myself.
And how did you accomplish that?
And then, he said by proxy. Does that make sense? Anyway, because he is true to himself, and he became, and projected that out there, then other people then learned how to be true to themselves.
I could see that with you, though. I, I could see that you accomplished it very well. How did you accomplish it?
He said I didn't second guess who I am,
Did your music have anything to do with that?
and I went with the flow.
Yeah.
So whatever it was I felt I needed to do, I did it. I was pulled emotionally to what I needed to do.
hmm
And he said I just get bored easy.
Okay.
So he said, I had to constantly change things up. He said,
Okay.
that is a lesson for people to not get stuck in
hmm
being static. Be open to constantly changing and evolving because that's why you're here and that's what you are, is constant, nonstop, eternal change.
Oh, interesting. Wow, that sent shivers. Was it your contract to die the way you did and so young?
He said that was the agreement.
Why?
He said, because whenever we die, it's because we've done everything we needed to do.
Okay.
Even a suicide.
Okay.
He said, and I mentioned that because of the connection to your son.
Mm.
Right?
But not all suicides. I mean, they come in with a contract to do something, but they.
He said, here's how I understand it, because I know that others have a different viewpoint, but as I've come to understand it based on every other life I've lived,
hmm
you always go when you were supposed to,
Okay.
even if it's by your own hand.
I don't know why you're frozen, Robert.
Well, I guess his energy is messing with things.
Back up, Mr. David Bowie. But anyway, it's okay because it's a nice pose. You don't look cross-eyed or weird or anything, so that's
That's
good.
good.
All right. Well, reflecting on your life, you really feel like you accomplished your spiritual mission, right?
He said everything.
Oh, God, that's awesome. What do you think your business biggest contribution to the music industry was?
To break the mold.
Okay.
Yeah. He said, and that's why I feel a bit of melancholy with the music industry and with human creativity in general. Because everything is about being safe, about sticking to the thing you know will make money, and then not ever changing. He said that is the root of, I mean, that is the actual definition of what, when I said the word being static, right? You're not changing.
That's true. Well, you
And he
made
said,
an impact on so many musicians, so
well, and he said, and that's boring.
yeah.
And I don't like boring.
Yeah, we know that about you. Uh, what advice do you have for other artists then? I guess obviously just keep changing, keep evolving, have the courage to get out of your comfort zone and not just think about the money and all that. Anything else?
Don't compromise who you are as an artist. And in general, as a person, no one should, even in your everyday life. Don't conform. Do not conform.
Yeah. Can you think of an artist that you think has compromised who they are?
He said, oh, there's a handful, but he says, I don't prefer to say that publicly.
Okay, well, tell me somebody who is true to who they are.
He said, that's a better question.
Yeah, I thought I knew that it would come to this. Yes.
He's just flipping through a bunch of people.
Okay.
He said, well, the one that's most popular right now, that most people can identify with, would be Adele.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I
She's
have to agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah. He said Adele is, she's a 21st century artist and one that does not compromise who she is. But yet she's still, what's the word, driven to make sure that other people, that she can connect with people. He said, for me, that wasn't always the drive. I didn't always want to connect with people. I wanted to make people think. And if I didn't connect to a person, it's probably because they just don't want to think. My art was always about that. It was always about, making you wonder, what's going on there? What is the message here? For some people, if they really want to, get into the nitty gritty of it all. I always had some story I was trying to say, to tell people.
Okay. Do you have a favorite song, and then we can go into the message behind it? A favorite song of yours?
He brought up the latest album.
Okay. I don't know anything about it.
Yeah, I don't either. The only one I know now, the only one that I'm familiar with from the latest album was Lazarus Song, the very last one. He said he enjoys that one quite a bit because of, he says, it was goodbye. He said, now, of course, consciously, I didn't really think of it as a goodbye. I just really saw it as my way of processing death. Right? But then he mentioned another song that was like Stardust, something Stardust.
Okay.
That he liked. He enjoyed that particular period of time. I guess that was in the 60s and 70s. I see it. I remember a little bit about this, where he was kind of dressed up androgynously, and he had the glitter and the different hair.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He enjoyed that period of time. But he said every single song he's ever written, if he hadn't fallen in love with it, then he would not have produced it as a song. So he loves everything he's done.
What was the message behind Stardust?
That you are more than a human being.
Oh, cool.
It was
all
something
right.
Stardust.
So, yeah, what do you think about how popular and defining your androgyny was? Hold on, have to get Bella. Oops.
You want me to like call you right back so that the
No,
freezing?
because then I have to
Oh,
splice the two
I see. Okay.
sessions together. It's okay. It's
Yeah.
fine.
So the question about the Ziggy Stardust.
Well, yeah, I guess. Yeah. Well, that was another question. But what do you think about how popular and defining your androgyny was, and why Ziggy Stardust?
He said, I always found my fame to be funny, to be amusing, is the
Mm,
word he used.
hmm
Um, and he said, and I enjoyed, poking at, people's fears, right? Because the people who were uh, most afraid of it, the people who were rooted within the old way of doing things,
mm.
they were completely up in arms about that.
Yeah, because it was a long time ago. I mean, that was just not
Yeah.
not accepted.
He said, and I enjoyed that quite a bit,
Mm,
right? Because I'm a rebel at heart.
yeah.
He said, I don't know that I would have called myself that in life, but I'm a rebel.
Okay.
I see that now.
Okay. So why Ziggy Stardust? What was behind that?
He laughs and says, drugs.
Oh, really? Is that where you were high and that's where how you came up with the persona?
Yeah, he said I did a lot of drugs during that time period,
Hmm
60s, 70s, all the way up till the 90s, he said, really. He did quite a bit of drugs, but especially in the 70s. And that
Mm,
influenced a lot of what he said and what he did.
okay.
He said something about Ziggy Stardust coming about because of an LSD trip, or
Okay.
LSD was involved somehow. So
Was Stardust a type of drug like cocaine or something, or is it just the last name?
he said it's a powdery substance.
Okay. All
He's making
right.
me laugh.
Well, what was it? What is Stardust to you?
Oh, I didn't know you could sniff LSD. Have you
Oh,
ever?
okay. I don't know.
Well, maybe it's not LSD, but anyway, he showed it was two substances. It was a speed substance like cocaine,
Mm-hmm.
and then a hallucinogen like LSD.
Oh,
So
wow.
that's
Okay.
what Stardust was.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
he just showed it. He just showed it like laying on a table, and
Mm-hmm.
it's like a very light beige or white powder.
Wow. When I saw it, I saw light beige also,
Yeah,
whereas normally I would think white for some reason.
yeah. But then when you sniff it and you look at it again, it looks like glitter on the table
Oh,
with
wow.
stars in it sparkling. So
Ah, that's why Stardust. Interesting. Were you bisexual? I mean, what was your sexual orientation?
he said I wouldn't have labeled myself any orientation, right? Really. It was whatever the energy was at the moment. If I was drawn to it, whether it was male or female, that's what I would.
Okay, so you could be drawn to male energy or female energy.
He said, but I have a stronger inclination toward female energy, which is
Mm,
why I ended up marrying a woman.
yeah. Okay. So, but you could be drawn to male energy sexually.
If the male energy projected a femininity to it.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right, that makes sense. Now, what was your religion, if any?
He said I didn't have a religion.
All right. Were you atheist?
He said I was someone who wanted to believe in this whole afterlife thing, and he said now, of course, I
You
mean,
know.
I know.
Would you define yourself as agnostic then?
Yeah, that's the word I heard. He was like he used that word and then he went in to describe what I just said.
Okay. All right. Now, some people thought you were an alien, or maybe that also you had some fascination with aliens and
He just
stuff. Can you
laughed
talk
like
talk about that?
he had like a really big laugh at that. He said, "Yes, I heard that many times." He said, "That's why I did the movie The Man Who Fell to Earth."
Hmm.
And in fact, that was the movie that actually solidified that reputation in me with me,
What reputation? The alien?
that being an alien. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So, are you?
He said, "Well, you can't be a human being and an alien at the same time." So he
Mm,
said, "I suppose when I would go to the United States, then of course I'd be an alien.
Oh,
It was
smart Alec. No, I mean, is your primary home
he
some
said
other
no.
like Pleiades or Orion or Sirius or?
He said the reason why I've been joking so much about this is because I find that whole, you know, the whole idea of that ridiculous. I'm
The
sorry.
whole idea of,
That, with the whole you're an alien and you're this and you're that and
well,
you
why do you find
know,
that ridiculous? There are aliens.
he said there absolutely are. He said, but the life I lived as David Bowie was a human being, and a human
Oh,
being
okay.
is a human being. He said that's the point that I'm trying to make.
Ah, so you weren't like a human alien hybrid or some alien that came from another planet incarnated into the David Bowie body.
No, he says no. I was none of those
Okay.
things.
All right. Well,
He
that
said,
will give closure for a lot of people.
yeah. He said, but it makes for a great fantasy,
Yeah, that's true.
and I'm completely open to, if it was, if it tied in with the record I was doing, I would have completely embraced doing that again because he says I actually did that before.
Okay.
He said the Ziggy Stardust, that time period, that was when the whole alien thing really, he played with a little bit.
Okay. Well, we have a lot of questions. Let me get these kind of quickly. Do you have any regrets?
He said I have no.
Oh, Bella just fell off the desk. Oh, God. Okay. Bella, my dog.
She's fine.
Yeah, she is. She's fine. And okay, any regrets?
He said I wouldn't. He said I healed all of the things I would label as regrets prior to my death. The
Oh,
last
okay.
several weeks. So he said I have no regrets now, but of course, there are things that even though I have healed those regrets, that I still think, yeah, maybe I shouldn't have done this or shouldn't have done
Oh,
that.
yeah. Okay. Can
Maybe
you
I
name one?
used better judgment. Mhm. Yeah, he brought one up. It had something to do with. Well, it's something that I had already seen, so it's not really. He said to bring it up anyway.
Okay.
The whole thing was like groupies, and not knowing his boundaries with groupies, things like.
Oh, okay.
That's not what
Okay.
I was thinking about. But anyway, he changed it on me.
Oh, okay.
So boundaries.
All right. Can you share briefly a life that most influenced your one as David Bowie?
He said I rather enjoyed art, and the one that really influenced me as David Bowie was a life where I was a painter,
Oh,
a painter's apprentice. I'm sorry, in France. It looks well. He said France, but then I saw a visual of someone wearing like stereotypical French clothes from like the 1700s,
okay.
and he's sitting outside. In fact, the visual he shows me isn't like a picture, like if I'm looking in real life at something. It actually looks like a painting of a person
Oh,
painting something.
oh, interesting.
Yeah, in a field. He said that was the life that most influenced me.
Okay. What was it about that life that influenced you?
He says in that life I learned how to go with the flow of who I am,
I see. With
which,
your art or beyond your art?
well, art was the thing that taught me to go beyond the art and being who I am,
Okay.
and to actually turn your life into a work of art.
Ah,
Mm. I learned that lesson, and that was a lesson that he said I think um, helps me to connect to the beauty of life, right?
mm,
Because in art I see beauty,
yeah.
and I
That's
learned,
something we can all learn.
yeah, and I learned in that life that life itself is art,
Yeah.
but you
You have
cannot
to just,
express that art unless you allow yourself to be free from all hesitation and be free in who you are as a soul.
be free with that paintbrush.
And he
The
says,
canvas is wide open.
he said, so many people want to know. He says, because I was asking him in my head, then how would you define who you are as a term? not you, David Bowie, but collectively, because we hear that term all the time,
I
be who you
know.
are, right? Well, what does that mean, right? So many people, they just throw it around and then they expect you to figure out what that is. So I asked him, and he said, well, that's the whole point. You have to figure out who you are if you don't know who you are.
Mm.
He said, but I can tell you that the clue to that is whatever it is you would do if you were completely uninhibited, that is who you are.
Oh, wow. That's almost scary.
Yeah. He said, so that's what you need to know.
Wow, that's interesting. That's a very powerful statement.
He said,
Um,
now there are instances where a person may, of course, do things that cross boundaries, right? But still do,
Still who they are.
still do who you are.
Have you incarnated since your death?
He said, no.
Reincarnated? Okay. Do you plan to in my lifetime, for example?
He said, no.
Okay. All right. Tell us about your afterlife and the work you do there.
He said, right now I'm getting my feet wet.
Oh, well, yeah. Getting your bearings.
So I'm learning. He was just telling me some things about how the most difficult thing he was learning, and then he switched to like a visual
Mm-hmm.
of him like going around and like floating through things, going through things, and not knowing how to actually recreate that feeling of where there's a stop mechanism.
Oh, the feeling of touch.
Yeah, you can produce that,
Yeah.
but
Oh, yeah.
it takes some time.
Yeah. Was that the most difficult thing for you?
He said, right now that's the most difficult thing because
Yeah.
the tactile portion
Yeah.
of it takes a little getting used to.
Mm.
But he said the thing that kind of eased me into it, he said, ironically, is my experiences when I was doing a lot of hallucinogens and various drugs.
Ah.
They give you the same sensation. So he said, so I would actually, to help me move beyond any kind of frustration over it, I would connect to the joy when I had the LSD trips or whatever
Oh, okay.
trips he would have.
Yeah, Erik had trouble with that stop mechanism thing too. That must be kind of common.
He said that's how Erik and I became acquainted.
Oh, really?
Erik teaches us how to deal with that.
Oh, okay. So, Erik, you're teaching him how to reproduce the tactile sensation?
Erik said, Mom, partially it's that, but partially it's just coming to terms with this new experience. He said, because you can't go and produce the tactile if your whole intention is, oh, I don't like this other way, right? You have to accept how things are right in that moment first, and then we guide you into all the other stuff.
Well, I didn't know you did that, Erik, that you teach a lot of spirits there.
He said, I do. He said, that's just my gig.
That's your gig, huh?
He just says it like so nonchalant.
Yeah, that's my gig.
That's the way he did it.
Y'all jam, you and David? Or have you?
Erik said, not yet, Mom.
Okay. All right, what do you think about the state of humanity? And really briefly. It sucks. Now, just give me like one sentence. What do you think about humanity now?
He said if you had asked me that question in the 60s, 70s, or even before I became famous, I would have been very pessimistic.
Mm.
But he said the life that I lived, the last 10, 20 years of my life, made me realize that how beautiful humanity is. Because of my wife, my kids. That is the beauty in humanity.
Mm. Okay,
And,
well, that's good.
and that, will be the thing that keeps humanity alive.
Connections between the ones we love?
Between ourselves, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Do you have any messages or advice for us? Other than the main one is express yourself, go with the flow, be okay with change, and be yourself.
He said I have nothing new to add to that.
Okay.
He said no one likes. He said a stick up your butt is always uncomfortable, so just take it out.
It is. Or do you have? What about a message for anyone in your family, like Iman?
He didn't say butt. He said ours.
Oh, okay. Of course. Do you have any message for Iman or anybody else in your family?
He said I have nothing to add that she didn't already experience when I was crossing over. We said everything I needed to say and that she
Okay.
needed to say.
All right.
So there was complete closure there.
Oh, that's nice. Erik, do you have any questions?
He said, "No, Mom." He said, "This isn't really about me, and I don't have anything to add."
Okay.
I enjoyed listening to him. He said, "Isn't he
So,
fascinating?"
yeah, he is. What do you think about channeling Erik?
He said, "The work that you're doing is great. I enjoy it.
Oh, thanks.
I enjoy it immensely." I was trying to hear that last word. It sounded muffled.
Okay. Robert, do you have any questions?
I don't have any. No, I never do
Okay.
because I'm always so focused on like them and just like being the messenger. So
Yeah, right. Just being the conduit.
yeah,
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Bowie. Thank you, Erik. Thank you, Robert. This was wonderful. I learned a lot in this session.
it
It
was
was really
quite
powerful.
good. Yeah, Eric said today's session was going to be something because I was like wondering why I was like my heart kept pounding today, but I really wasn't nervous. It just was like boom, 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 my heart.
Oh, yeah?
Eric said it's because there's a lot of information we were going to relay, and my body was trying to process it.
Okay.
Well, okay.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Robert, I'll see you Friday.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.